Today, I'm very happy to welcome Ms. Liliana Komorowska, Polish-born actress, producer, and now filmmaker. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sherif. Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's my pleasure, really. Very happy talking to you. Let's say I became a big fan, I don't want to say a long time ago, I saw the sequel to Scanners. I used to be a big fan of the first film, the first film and also the two sequels will become cult favorite regarding science fiction and horror, and also been familiar to your different roles. You've been working between Europe, the States, Canada. But really, I want to ask you in the beginning, after you finished your studies in Poland and work in Polish theater, television, cinema, how did you make the move to the other two continents?
Well, I was always very inclined into watching the American movies, especially musicals, because my parents are artists. They are ballet artists. My mom was a very prominent choreographer in the 70s and 80s when I was graduating from my university of the theatrical university with master degree in fine arts, and we were having our little tradition. On Sundays, we were watching all the movies with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and Rita Hayworth and Gene Kelly and all these American classics. We were just devouring, and I was envisioning myself, thinking that, my goodness, maybe one day I'm going to become one of the actresses, because, and my parents were, my backdrop, growing up was theater and was a stage. So that was pretty much easy for me to decide for the career. So I went directly to the theatrical school. Then I went on stage. Then I was with the biggest Polish masters of cinema and theater, and I had a pleasure to work with one of the greatest that was called Jerzy Kawalerowicz, and my debut was in one of his first films about the president, and another one was called Osteria, when I played a Ukrainian pretty much a lead in the film, and that film became a classic. One of the classics of the favorite of Martin Scorsese. So when Martin Scorsese talks about his 21 classics of the Polish film school, he mentions Osteria, and I had the pleasure to interview him for my documentary, and he said, "Oh yes, I saw you on screen," which was really funny. So how did I cross? I was graduating the school and went to the theater and had a lot of work, but then a political situation became very uneasy because of the solidarity that was crushed. Do you remember the solidarity movement in the 80s with Wałęsa? It was crushed. In 1981, there was a martial law established in December. And for the whole year and more, the theaters were pretty much closed, and we were boycotting the television because the army took over. So I was very, very uneasy being a young actress, and I was looking for getting out of that. And I had friends on the other side in Paris and in the States, and one of them was a producer that was making a film, and he managed to send me an invitation to the film, and it took me a year to establish the visa, working visa, passport, and all these things. I was so determined to leave Poland, and my parents were saying, yes, you should do it. So then I left, and I was one of the supporting cast of that film called The War and Love, that was directed by Moshe Mizrahi, an Oscar winner from Israel, and written by Abby Mann, another Oscar winner, and all these big Oscar winners. And then I come from Poland to act in the American movie, my first American movie, and it came actually to Poland, and they were shooting in Auschwitz because it was a Second World War movie. That's how I started in the States. Just having that opportunity opened up a lot of doors, and I had an agent, a manager, and I ended up on soap operas because of my cheekbones, you know, the high cheekbones and the accent. Was something that was very interesting for the soap operas in the 80s. So in 1982, I left Poland. I was one of the cast of that film. And 1983-4, I was on the cast of Another World. That was my first one. Another World. I was playing Daphne Grimaldi. And that's how it all started. I was just extremely lucky, I think. And also I came already equipped with a tool and knew that the tool was the language, obviously, right? So I had a language, and being on that soap opera allowed me also to learn better English. And since we had like 15 pages of text to learn by heart, that was also something like a very good education for an actor.
Yes,
and all started in soap operas, even you know, like you name it. It was Demi Moore, it was Julianne Moore that I was playing in the soap operas. John Saxon, I don't know if you remember the actor from Big Kid, Karate Kid.
he passed away last month, John Saxon.
Yeah.
He was in Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
And
yes.
I saw this film when I was 5 years old or something. You know, at that age in the 70s, martial arts were very
popular. Yeah.
My God. And of course, John Saxon, you know, did this Freddy Krueger film, the first one, Nightmare on Elm Street. He was a cult actor, and he was in television and cinema, really cult actor. And I want to tell you, when you speak about the soap operas, of course, you need to learn your dialogue, I think, by heart, because you shoot with 3 video camera at the time, you know, with no cutting. So you needed to learn a lot, and it was very fast, the dialogue, you know.
You got up at 5 in the morning. At 6, the limo picked you up at one place, and we were all driven to Brooklyn studios. And at 7 o'clock, we were already rehearsing. It was a table rehearsing, and then putting ourselves in costumes and makeup, and then going on stages. And on stage, we were just instantly being shot, and you know, until the whole day. And since I was a villain on the show, then I had a lot to do, because they were giving me a lot of scenes, being a very evil, seductress, conniving, you know, all the black characters traits that you need to possess. I had them at the age of 26. Because that's you know, how I broke in. And New York Times at that time was having a big article saying accent on the soaps. It was my accent. It was very rare that they employed, but since I had high cheekbones, I was an evil character, it fitted very well, the accent. And then it followed up with all the big roles of the spies and kidnappers and all the, you know, I've had so many deaths in my life as an actor, you can't believe, you know, so I've already crossed the line. I've lived my own deaths maybe 10 times.
I want to tell you that at that time, the impact of soap operas and television series were, I think, bigger on the audience here in Egypt. You know, If you remember The Bold and the Beautiful, you know, when it started to see
Yes.
them, you know, people went crazy. And also television series like Dallas, like Knots Landing, you know, people, you know, were discussing them, you know, all the time, because there were not a lot channels like right now, you know. And I see you did an episode in Kojak and an episode in the Equalizers. The Equalizer, they were very popular at that time, you know. These television series, top, you know.
Yeah, I was on all these shows because they always needed a bad girl, somebody who was shooting, somebody was shot, somebody was escaping from some sort of a big plot. So yes, I was on the series The Foxfire. I was on Simon versus Simon. I was on Equalizer. You know, all these big shows I had a chance to play with. I was on Chances, you know, like all these series with Jackie Collins or with all the, you know, I was playing a weird kind of European girl that was very seductive. Yeah, I think they liked that part, you know, of the woman that is like, for example, after that I played in 3 other soap operas: As the World Turns and One Life to Live. So there were soap operas where I played a kidnapper, and then I played a woman that had an open marriage. So she was doing all sorts of other things, and with her husband. I was Italian. I was playing Angela Visconti. So, you know, it was a lot of fun living in New York, because all these soap operas are initiated there. And at that point, there was also some sitcoms. There was also some, for example, they were trying to put together a series called The Saint. Do you remember The Saint with
First was Roger Moore, then there was Return of the Saint again,
that's
and
right.
they
So
did three revivals.
the was shot with me playing a Russian ballerina, that they had a tiara, and the tiara was stolen from my head after the performance. So that was something very interesting as well, because you know, I could then put a tribute to my mother, a big choreographer and a big idol in my life, and said, "Mom, I couldn't dance. I went through in a different path in my life as an actress, and I would like to dedicate this role, a ballerina role, for you, because you've been the one who gave me that feel of wanting to be an artist in life." And she was a very accomplished woman, and for me, I was very ambitious, and I wanted to prove to my parents that I can be the best.
I want to ask you about scanners again. Scanner 3, you know, scanners, I remember I've seen it, maybe I was 15 years old. The first one, of course, was David Cronenberg, you
Yeah.
know. And of course, growing up, I started to read about it, and I like generally David Cronenberg's film, you know, because it mixes science fiction, horror, psychology, you know, a lot of things all together. And also, at that time, there were no computer graphics right now. All
True.
the special effects you needed to do, physically, mechanically, or using different kind of material, etc. You know. So, I was surprised when I was in a video store, you know, VHS store, at that time, you know, that they made a sequel, and I saw the two sequel. Then you co-starred in the third one, Scanners 3, the takeover, and I think it was very authentic. The scene where you killed this guy swimming in the pool, you know. I still remember it until now. But
Yes. So yes. This film happened to be my kind of the film that I liked the most at the beginning of my career, because I was living in Los Angeles. So after soap operas, I decided that this is enough of that world that you can get sucked into. And then you don't know when you are already old and you still play the same part. And I did not want to do it, and I wanted to have more adventure, and I wanted to go to Hollywood. So I left New York and went to Hollywood, and I got myself a manager over there. And I was referred through the agents and managers in New York to a manager by the name of Michael Mann, who was representing by then Joan Collins and West Studi and many other big actors. And he took me under his wings. And at that point, there was an American-Canadian production with Christian Duguay, a young director, and they were looking for an actress, not necessarily with an accent, but Michael Mann forced my candidature on them, saying, listen, you have nothing to lose, look at this woman. And I went on the audition in Los Angeles, and they passed on me. So they didn't cast me, because the producers, I was the choice for the director. He was flabbergasted. He says, I want this girl. She has a beautiful face. She acts. She knows, she's very seductive, like it needs to be. She's very sensual. But the problem was an accent. So they forgot about me. And I went to New York, and I was doing other things. And at that point, Michael Mann is calling me in New York and telling me, Liliana, they casted this British actress, also from the soaps. She has a British accent, but she doesn't have the visa. Her visa expires and she cannot do the film. And I said, whoa, so you are the second choice. Can you do another audition? I did an audition over the phone. It was some weird thing. I remember that it was, for some reason, I was somewhere in the another casting office, and they had screens and they had phones, and they sent the screen. It was so complicated, not like today. Today you put yourself on tape, bang, and then you send it in the minute they got it, right? And over there, it was a next day. And then they looked at the tape and they gave me the role. So that's how it all happened, completely by accident. And then I had to go to Montreal. This was the first time that I was in Canada and Montreal shooting the film. And then afterwards, we end up, the whole company ended up in Thailand, but I wasn't shooting in Thailand. My role ended up being electrocuted on the stages, a film stage in Panasonic studios in Montreal. So, but the funniest thing is that at the end of the film, the director and me, we fell in love. And so from that on, we were a couple. We got married. I had 2 kids with Christian, and we did a lot of films together. Big action adventure films where I was always playing some sort of a character. And at some point, there was a big series that Tony Scott, Ridley Scott's brother, produced. And one of the first episodes was called Natasha, and I was playing the lead. I was playing a model, also a weird model that kind of disintegrates, and at the end of the film she disappears. And Tony called me and he said, Liliana, it was one of the wonderful roles. I really loved you, and thank you so much for taking it, because I know that Christian has a very, very big schedule with all these big action films, and we wanted him to direct. So, and we won an award for that episode in the Galaxy Award for the best episode of the sci-fi. So it was really funny. And that's how it all started. That sci-fi thing was also fitting my emploi, because I was again, you know, kind of a different species for the screen, for American audience. I was different species because of the accent.
The important is to have an Eastern European accent, you know, and to have the R, you know, very strong in
Oh,
in the dialogue.
yeah, I
Yes.
don't have strong R's, but if you want, I can have them very, very strong. So if the need
Yeah.
is, it could be very strong. but but you know, that's why, you know, I could play European characters. And just recently, because you know, my life had a lot of turns and twists and turns because of the earthquake that was happening in Los Angeles. So after my son was born, the earthquake of 1991 took us back to his hometown, to Montreal, and we moved with me being 5 months pregnant and with my daughter born in Montreal, Canada. Because you know, I just couldn't stand being traumatized, and my little 2-year-old son was traumatized by that huge cataclysmic event. You know, it's not fun to be a part of a huge Northridge earthquake that was on a Richter scale really very high, and it damaged a lot of Los Angeles. So that was one of the dramatic events that took over our careers. And instead of living in Los Angeles, where Christian already had mapped out a few big films, one of them was with Michael Douglas. They were talking, there was Ben Affleck, there was Schwarzenegger, but you know, all these things were kind of, you know, put a little bit on the back burner because we moved to Canada back. And sometimes, you know, even Pierce Brosnan, because one of the first films that Christian did was called Livewire, and Pierce was starring in it.
Very good
And
film, by the way. I like this film very much.
yeah,
You know, I think it was one of the films that also brought back Pierce Brosnan to James
that's
Bond
right.
because
Exactly. And
he was supposed to do James Bond before Timothy Dalton, before
yeah,
and he was in a he was in
intense.
Remington Steel,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So,
Yes, but I
uh,
want to tell you,
Harris is
yeah,
the one who kind of put it on him, saying, you have to, since she was one of the stars of James Bond, she knew the producers and they were looking at Pierce Brosnan. So when he was doing Grey Owl with Attenborough in Montreal, he came to visit us, and he was saying how much he misses us because we were, you know, not in Los Angeles anymore. And he had already a new family with Kaylee and new children, and he was a very happy man. We were happy for him as well. He's a
yeah,
very special character, Pierce, because my both grandmothers died of a cancer, which was driven of hormonal cancer. For it's like breast cancer and the cancer of uterus and you know, all these other things that are driven from hormonal. His wife died of that cancer, so he said that I should get myself on a program, and he organized everything with the Mount Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles for the genetic cancer. You know, so he was very, very conscientious of it, and extremely sweet and human. So I remember when I was doing my film Beauty and the Breast, for some reason I remembered Pierce, because he was the one who was telling me, you have to take good care of yourself and you have to bring your health between your own hands. So this is the, you know, Beauty and the Breast, the film I directed while being in Montreal, because that career of mine was not enough for me. You know, in Los Angeles, I was trying to play the actress, then I was an actress mother. And then from being actress mother, I decided to take on directing. My mom became from choreographer. She became a director of musicals and big spectacles, musical spectacles, and I became a director of documentaries. So in some way, it is in our veins, you know, to do something. So I was always very grateful to my mom that she gave me all the strength to pursue, because it's very important in our lives to pursue our own path of our realization, you know, who we are, who we want to be. We should listen to our inner voice, and we should voice it out, and we should pursue that. We should become that. And it's really hard for a lot of people, especially immigrants that live outside of their own countries, that it's very, very hard to find themselves. It takes a lot of stamina, and it takes a lot of strength, inner strength, and patience with yourself, and know-how, and you can do it. So I proved to myself that I could do it.
Yes, and then you did another documentary called To My Father, correct?
Yes, yes. I have a little DVD of that, To My Father. Yes,
Yes.
it's about a woman who lives in Montreal. She's now 85. She was 80 at that point. It was like 5 years ago, where she talked to me with her niece about her father that was killed by NKVD in 1937-38 in Vinnytsia in Ukraine. He was a Polish teacher, and at that time I was not realizing that the Stalin purge, you know, the Stalin times actually were so cruel that Stalin, with his own command, he asked to kill over 100,000 Polish people just in that little place called Podole, because of the ethnic cleansing. He wanted to clean the Russia from all the ethnicities and the people who were believers, who were Christian. And so the first on the list were intelligentsia, which were intellectuals, and there were Polish, there were other ethnicities, there were, you know, all the other small ethnicities, and there was a common grave that was discovered by Nazis during the Second World War, and in that grave was the body of the father of this woman. Her name was Alinka. At that point, you know, so she was 3 years old when it happened, and I decided to recreate these circumstances when they KVD, the soldiers are during the night coming and taking him away. And it was also well awarded film. And also it just changed some kind of consciousness, because the Ukrainians at that point were not even aware that some sort of mass murders like that happen. They were not aware of it, and we brought awareness with that film. And on these graves, the mass graves, today there is a huge recreation park with a big arena, sports arena, and with a discotheques and stuff. So there's only one little cross saying, you know, that it was during the communism era, but it was much too vivid for the families that were living without being able to bury their own bodies of their parents or their families. So that film was very meaningful for them and meaningful for the Polish history. And the Polish Institute of History came to me saying, we did not know that this event took place in the history. And they decided to print the book, educational book, in 15,000 copies, including that film. So that film was part of the book that all the schools in Poland had to learn. which is something that is very, very soothing for me, because for me, it's important to remember who you are, what is your heritage, what is your history, and to share it and to give the voice to the people that don't have it.
And you, right now, your son and your daughter became filmmakers themselves.
Yes, yes, it was something that was not expected, but at the same time, my son was always having around him a father who was having the camera like it was his second hand, because Christian was, to start with, a camera operator, a Steadicam, one of the best Steadicam operators in the industry, and then he became a director. So imagine his first son, Orlando Duguay, who lives in Los Angeles, is now one of the best Steadicam operators in Los Angeles. For example, Jean-Marc Vallée, the one director who did Sweet Little Lies. Do you remember that series on HBO?
Yes, yes.
That film was steadicammed by Orlando Duguay, the first son of Christian. And when I talked to Jean-Marc Vallée, he said, well, I couldn't do without Orlando. He's a jewel, he's amazing. So that's Orlando. And then Sébastien, who is my son, who decided to go to the University of the Film, the famous Concordia Film School, Mel Oppenheim. And he graduated with being a director, and went on with his son, his father to direct the second unit in the series on the Netflix Medici's just last year. And my daughter, she was just squeezed in between. She did not know what to do with herself until when she was young. She was doing little projects, and one of the little projects was her own idea. She was directing it, and she asked me to help her with the second little camera. And then I saw it came out to a 45 minutes project, a film project that she directed, she wrote, she edited, and she took the whole school, and the whole school acted in it. I said, Natalia, well, what do you think you're going to do with these skills? And she goes, I don't know, Mom. and today she just completed a communication department of the university, and is in the mentorate, a big, beautiful end of the postgraduate school, where she is training herself as a film director. So her first film was awarded by a festival, and it was a short called Viral. I thought she was very clever, because she decided to employ her mom as a character, and her dad as a character in the movie, and her brother was doing a camera. So, you know, match made in heaven. We have a little Francis Coppola kind of family kind of thing, you know, where we all in it. We want or we don't. Our daughter is smarter than us. She said, you're going to work for me. Which I think is quite brilliant for a little girl, right? And
Yes.
it was like 2 years ago, and today she's been on many sets of the movies. She's already working with the producers, and doing also her own second short in the postgraduate program. And pandemic is not slowing them down that much, although I wish that the industry will come back in full force.
Yes. And tell me, Liliana, right now, what are your plans in the future right now?
Well, right now I just, you know, like last year I did, as an actress, I did a role of a queen in a big television film for streaming, and for Up TV in the United States, where, you know, you could see it everywhere. For Europe, I was playing a queen in a film called the Wedding, the Princess Wedding, which I thought was very nice. I really loved it to play a queen. It was great. But I am working, so aside acting, I am working on another documentary, which is closer to my Polish roots. It's a documentary called Wajda and You, and it's a documentary on a Polish master of cinema, one of the big ones that won 4 nominations for an Oscar and an Oscar for Lifetime Achievement in the year 2000. And he is the mentor to big filmmakers like Scorsese, and I went to New York. I did an interview with Martin Scorsese, and he couldn't stop raving about this filmmaker, saying that if it wasn't for Wajda, I would not be able to do my films, because he inspired me with every of his shots in the movie Ashes and Diamonds. And I memorized each scene the way it's made, because it taught me at school. That was this brilliant teacher that told us to see European filmmaking. And he said Andrzej Wajda was one of the masters already at the very young age, and he said it allowed me to bring in my own vision the plasticity of the screen, of the take. And he was asking all his big actors, including Leonardo DiCaprio, to sit with him and to watch that film, Ashes and Diamonds, because he said that there was something about acting, about directing, and about the story that's very universal. And it's black and white, and it's very alluring for the director to show this kind of climate, to show this atmosphere of the film to his cast. So he was, trying to make some references. And there is also Bernardo Bertolucci, there is Steven Spielberg, that worked with the people who worked with Wajda. He took them, and it was his first film that was a series after, all the big sci-fi films, with E.T. and the Third Encounters of the kind. He did Schindler's List, and he did it in Poland, and he did it with the help of the production designer Alan Starsky that I interviewed. And he said that this Oscar that he has for that film, he also owes to Wajda, because Andrzej Wajda is that master. He did 60 films in his career. He had a brilliant career, and he's one of those monumental film directors that is forgotten, because we kind of forget very quickly about these filmmakers that they're not there in the world of cinema. It's so fast going and moving forward that I would like to just remind the world that those masters need to be reminded, because they put that little very important drop in the universal culture. So that's my deed, and I'm doing it with one of the best documentary filmmakers in Poland right now, and hopefully with the help of the widow after Wajda. Her name is Krystyna Zachwatowicz. She worked with Andrzej Wajda all her life as a costume designer, actress, and also production designer. So it's at the very beginning. I have a big base of interviews that I've done already with the prominent directors and artists from all over, but I'm still looking forward to talking to Polański, to Skolimowski, to maybe in France, Isabelle Huppert, because she worked with him. In United States, I'd love to talk to Mr. Spielberg, and I'd love to talk to Coppola, who says that after watching his films, he just got wings, and he was saying, I want to do my films now, because I'm so inspired, because it just gives that kick, it's a lot of the filmmakers that need to be motivated, and Wajda was motivating by doing their masterpieces. I'm thinking also about Wim Wenders, about Ford Coppola, and all the other big names. We would like to see Vida through the eyes of the big artists of this world, because it's important that we draw our inspirations from the bigger ones, from the masters, and then we give it to the world of art and culture.
Yes, of course. And I remember we invited Mr. Vajda a long time ago in Cairo Festival, I think in the 80s or the 90s, was one of his films. Poland, you know, is full of filmmakers. You know, you work yourself with Zanussi earlier in your career.
Yes.
Yes, and I met him. He was head of the jury in a festival where I am member, so I enjoyed discussing with him the awards. It was in Russia, in Orenburg, like 8 years ago. So it was very nice, and the world of cinema is very inspiring. Okay, Liliana, I want to thank you very much for this interview. It is a great pleasure, you know, talking to you. And I hope you'll be able to finish your documentary for us to screen it in Egypt next year. Yeah?
Thank you. I'd love that. It would be a big pleasure. And to meet you in live. Now everything happens on Zoom, so hopefully it's not going to end up on Zoom.
Yes, I hope so. You know, that our world is not science fiction and become virtual. You know?
Yes, it's in real time.
Yeah. So I hope next year will be better for the whole world and for all the artists, filmmakers, you know, and we all meet in better circumstances.
I hope so too. Thank you very much for this interview, and good luck to you too, and hopefully we'll very soon.
Of course. Have a good day.
Thank you so much.